to the Manbitesfilm girlfriend takeover. So in other words, woman bites film.
Hell yeah. What? So ladies, are you excited? What did you do with your men? Are they hiding out? Are they watching you while we're doing this?
I'm playing video games, so he's pretty entertained at the moment.
William Phoenix, I just locked him in the cupboard beneath the stairs. He's happy. It's Harry Potter.
That's right. That's what I did too. I've got Lewis all bound up in a closet for later on for me to enjoy. So, if you hear any banging during this, that's him trying to get back out again.
But this is definitely a no boys allowed moment.
No boys allowed this week at all. So, ladies, let's get started with our main review. But first, we should probably say we decided we're going to go the girl power route this time, right? All of our films,
yep.
all lady directed.
Yeah,
all films directed by women.
Women empowerment, y'all. We're here for it. The future is female.
What? Taking over the world. All right. So for the main review this week, we watched Bling Ring. Is it the Bling Ring or Bling Ring?
Bling Ring.
Is it the Bling Ring?
I think so.
It was. I don't remember if there was a the. Anyway,
okay.
So basically, basic overview on it. It was based off of a true case that was going on in LA where a group of, I think it was teenagers, basically. They were in high school, were traveling around to celebrities' homes and breaking into them when they weren't there and just stealing stuff out of their houses. And they didn't get caught for quite a while.
That's wild.
I think it was 9 months before they got caught.
And I think it was a Vanity Fair article is what the movie was based off of. And it was the suspects wore Louboutins was what it was called. So kind of like a Devil Wears Prada moment, I guess. But I don't know. What did you ladies think of it?
I mean, Emma Watson, I think she's a really great actress. I mean, she definitely has a lot of worth, especially from, the whole Harry Potter series and I thought she did great in Little Women.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But honestly, Bling Ring, it kind of fell short for me. I don't really understand a lot of things about that movie.
I felt like Emma Watson was completely she didn't add a lot to the movie. I think she's been so good in other stuff, but this was kind of like she was trying to prove that she could be a bad girl, but I didn't understand her point of even being in this movie. She's also a secondary character, so.
I mean, all I could think is, am I really watching Ditzy, Callie, Hermione? It was just weird.
Yeah, no.
It's so weird and out of place, I think, for
her Valley girl is just... I don't know.
Oh my God, that was horrible.
And especially when you think about she went on to do Beauty and the Beast pretty soon after this, I think.
Yep.
I mean, so it was totally out of character for what she was doing. And it was just kind of a weird role. And she was weird in it. She was almost mechanical or wooden in her performance. Maybe
that's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was so fake.
She reminded me of Kristen Stewart in the first Twilight when people were saying she was kind of wooden during it and didn't have a lot of emotion. It was like that. I kept thinking of that.
Yeah, it was very stale. Very stale.
So besides Emma Watson, what did you guys think of the movie, or Sofia Coppola in general, who is the director of the movie, which is why we picked it, because she's kind of a big name in Hollywood as a director now. So what did you guys think about just the style of the movie or the story in general? Or
So my understanding is there are certain aspects of Sofia Coppola's work. One, that she tends to put women, and especially kind of young adult women, at the center of her work. So this was very true to that. And so I think it's a good representation of Sofia Coppola. She also is very much about the visual and not about the plot necessarily. So if you are a fan of Sofia Coppola's work and enjoy those aspects of it, then I think that this is really in line with that. That being said, lack of plot to me sort of leans towards slow and a little on the boring side, maybe.
Dude, during this, the guy, the whole time I want to be grow a pair. Half the time he wants to break into these houses. The other part of the time he's just being a little wimp about it, standing in the corner. Like, I want these girls to like me, so I'm going to go break into houses.
You know, his role, I think was the only role that I think actually had substance, because the whole movie is just like a ridiculous, extravagant affair between like celebrities getting their house like, you know, totally barged into by teenagers. Like, you people don't even have cameras in your homes. You're going to tell me that?
I know, that drove me kind of crazy too. I'm like, really? Like, even Paris Hilton, you think she would have noticed after the 8th or 9th time that they broke in?
Yeah, but I feel like him as a character, he did really well. He had substance. He built this relationship.
At least there was a backstory to him, you know? Like,
yeah, like with everything else, I feel like it just kind of fell short of your typical high school, I'm trying to be like hip and popular.
Well, this
like
kind of
modern day.
It reminded me of every high school movie I've ever seen, where it's like, okay, you're a new kid and you fall into a group and you just kind of get absorbed into it. Sort of like The Craft, even though that's not like, that's a good movie, but I mean, like,
I was gonna say The Craft.
No, like, but where she goes in and she just gets kind of like absorbed into this group and it becomes overwhelming. That was kind of what it was like for him. Like, he met these girls, they were really into this, and he's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. That style of high school with always the new kid, and that's what happens. So.
And those girls that he fell in with, I mean, were truly sociopathic. I mean,
Yes.
there was there was no sense that what they were doing was wrong. There was no guilt about it. Even when they got caught, it was really all about just the fact that they got caught and how it was going to impact their lives.
But it made me irritated, like, that they so didn't care. Like, they had no reason for doing it, and they had no depth. That's like you said, they were kind of like one-dimensional characters, all of them, except for him, who he had a little bit of like, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing it. I want to fit in. But those girls, especially the main one, I don't even remember her name. I hated her so much.
I know, right?
Amber or something.
Amber, yeah. Like, when
she was like a total narcissist.
Oh, she really was. And she did like just every minute of that movie, she didn't care at all. She had no regard. And I don't think she even was like really that attached to this dude. He was just a means to.
Oh my God. She totally used him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved how
she's planning stuff with him.
I loved how she was always like, hey, can you find this person's address for me? Like, she was incapable of using Google to do the exact same thing that he did.
I'm sorry, that drove me crazy. Like, too easy. I know. What was it? It was like a database of here's every celebrity's address and a camera view of how to get into their home. Like
who? No, what? And I can't believe that actually happened. Like, that's apparently how they actually did it. Like, they just like researched where they lived and when they weren't home. Like, what?
It's almost so ridiculous that you're like, how could this possibly have actually happened? You know, like, it feels that kitschy.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. Yeah, for sure.
And how could they never, ever contemplate the fact that there would be other security measures besides the door being locked and people being at home? And just because the celebrity themselves was known to be elsewhere, like, there's never somebody else in your home when you're not there. It all just really lacked kind of rational thought.
It did. I mean, and just the fact that they were able to go and repeat it so many times, that's what drove me crazy. Like, they're going to hide their key under their mat. Who does that? Like,
oh my God, they went to Paris's house way too many times. I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
Like, I know.
I was seeing Paris's face like everywhere, plastered everywhere, which honestly, that's totally believable. Like, I totally believe that's what Paris Hilton's house looks like.
Oh, I believe they filmed it in her house.
Oh, seriously? That's
that is her house.
Oh, that makes all the sense in the world.
The nightclub that she has in there. Oh my gosh. I was like, really? With the stripper pole that she had going on?
She's just, you know, very over the top character, you know, person. Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
She's very like unique in her sense of fashion, her sense of style, just who she is as a person, that I just found like her home to be like just an exact definition of who she is. It was great.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was great to see. Yeah.
I made Will sit through this and watch it with me. He is not happy with me for that fact. But the thing that we sort of talked about afterwards is that we actually think it would have been a much more interesting movie if it had been filmed from the victims' perspectives. Like, what it was like to be the victim of these crimes and having people in your home.
Oh,
I
that's
definitely don't think
interesting,
they involved that enough. I think if, yeah, definitely they would have involved more like the actual celebrity aspect of it. It would have been, I guess, cooler in a sense, more in depth. You know, you get better backstory from something of that perspective. But I
Yeah,
feel
you're
like
right. It was very minimally referenced in the movie, like one news report, which was like tiny at best. They didn't really involve the celebrities, which is weird because they had so much footage from when this actually happened that they could have utilized, you know. I mean, even just the interviews from when they had to do it. So I don't know. I think there was a missed opportunity there, definitely.
yeah, I think celebrities, I mean, they get a lot of news coverage. Like the fact that it wasn't, you know, to the degree where it should have been for, you know, the kind of A-list celebrities that these kids are, you know, crashing their homes. Like, what? It just didn't add up to me.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I picked it, you know, like when I was looking at the list, I was like, oh, okay, this is like just something different to watch. And Sofia Coppola, you know, and just giving her just some props for the fact that she is kind of making her mark as a director. But I'm just sitting there going, like, this feels like a high school movie almost. Like, it was just weird the way it was shot, and the story is kind of like it drags in the middle. Definitely, at least I thought it did. Like, I was kind of sitting there, like, I was doing the thing where you click on it, going, how much is left of this movie?
Oh my
like,
God, I did the same thing.
and I was happy it was only an hour and a half, but it felt longer because you're sitting there like, oh, this kind of.
Oh my God. And Brandon watched it with me. So he was like also going through that drama. And then he's like, I just don't get why Emma Watson is trying to act like she's like acting in the movie, like just like a bad American accent. Like it's just bad. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Like it's pretty unreal.
Awesome.
Like I just felt so bad. I'm like, this is going to be like that embarrassing picture that resurfaces one day. You know what I mean? Like, does that ever happen to you? Like Facebook is like, hey, here's a reminder from 8 years ago. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was that person.
Yeah, this is going to be the movie that she's like, the regretting movie later on.
She looks back on and she's like, why did I do that movie? I honestly thought that was a Netflix movie. And then Brandon was like, this is not a Netflix movie. I'm like, damn, this is really poor quality. Like, there's been better Netflix movies than this movie.
Oh, I think there's been some really good Netflix movies. So this is kind of like, I mean, the whole thing, the girls in it really annoyed me though. They were just so vapid and one dimensional. I just could not, like, I think they just irritated me so much. That's why, like, through the movie, I'm like, oh, this has to end. Like, seriously, like, okay, yes, you like shoes. You like Paris' stuff. Let's move on. I was really hopeful it'd be more interesting because I was like, it's an interesting concept that they were able to break into these houses, but they managed to make it really boring.
Like, the court case felt like super short.
And weird. It was very weird how it was handled. And then that thing at the end, like with Emma Watson, I was like, what?
Like they just pan into the courthouse, close the doors, and then open the doors, pan out. We're done. The people are walking out. I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Did I just miss something? Did I pass out, black out, and then like wake up to the end of the court scene? No court scene.
It was the complete anticlimactic end to this movie where you're like, oh, okay. Well, at least it's over.
Yeah.
I think the movie that I saw most recently that sort of dealt with a similar concept of sort of a creative theft ring would be Hustlers, the J-Lo movie recently.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I feel like that just did it much better than this.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, also aren't they like grown women in Hustlers?
They are grown women in Hustlers.
And aren't they like strippers or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying
level.
that it's like comparing apples and apples here, but in terms of like this kind of weird theft ring motif, they're similar in that way. So in terms of overarching story or idea, and that to me was far more engaging than this was.
Okay. Maybe gotta watch Hustlers, you know?
Yep. Just if you're in the mood for a theft ring movie, you know, something better. But so ladies, what would you give this? I mean, let's give honor to the boys and their system. So they use the 10-point rating scale. What would you guys give this?
Oh God. I'm gonna give it honestly a 2. It was like hot garbage to me.
That sounds like something Brandon would say. That was hot doo-doo.
Yeah, I could have watched so many other better movies.
It's like I want my hour and a half back.
Like,
Oh my God, I do want my
why do I
hour
need
and a
to
half
watch
back.
Emma Watson disappoint me? Like, why do I want to watch that?
I know, you need to watch something good with her just to redeem her as an actress now. Okay,
Right.
so what was your rating, Samara?
So I'm not going to be quite as harsh as Carla there, but I'm going to go with a 4. The only reason that I can give it some extra points is because I do think that visually there were some interesting moments in it. In particular, I'm thinking about the scene that was like a wide angle shot where you could see the whole glass house and the 2 people moving through it.
That was
I read
cool.
something
That
about
was a
it
cool
afterwards
scene.
about
Yeah.
how it's supposed to represent a dollhouse. And I thought that was kind of cool.
That
So
is so
visually,
cool.
I thought there were some interesting moments. So I will give it a 4, but I still want that hour and a half of my life back.
Right.
I'll split the difference and I'll say I'll give it a 3. I mean, I'm glad I watched it just to see it and just to know how much I hated it because, you know, like at least I know I don't want to watch it again, you know?
For
So,
sure.
But yeah, I'm definitely in that, like, the silver lining is I know what I don't like. All right, cool. Well, so we're going to take a little break and then we're going to come back with the bucket list. And Samara's going to be leading us in that this week. So, yes, get ready for that.
Welcome to an exploration of sight and mind, a travel through the world of films and the artists that bring you these masterpieces. Do you love films, directors, actors, cinematographers, editors, composers, or any of the hundreds of artists that bring you these feats of art? I am Luislacau, your host into the world of films, your guide to Man Bites Retro.
Welcome back. It's time for the bucket list. Typically, this is William Phoenix's section. So as his much, much, much better half, I am taking over. So this week's bucket list movie might be a little controversial. I don't think it's going to be controversial in terms of whether people believe it belongs on the bucket list or not. What might be controversial is whether people believe it belongs on an episode about women directors.
Okay.
So my movie is 1999's The Matrix.
Okay.
And so let's start with the probably not controversial part, and that is the fact that The Matrix should be considered a bucket list movie. And that is, I mean, really based on the cinematography and the groundbreaking technology that was used in this movie, specifically the bullet time effect, which is, for anybody who has seen this movie, you know, it's used multiple times, but most specifically that iconic moment where Keanu Reeves is kind of dodging the bullets and doing that whole little circular bend thing. That image was done with a really groundbreaking technology where multiple, I think it was like 100 cameras were set up in 360 at differing intervals, and kind of that shot was done in 360 surround sound kind of way. So that in itself, I think, probably ranks it as a bucket list movie. I also think it's a movie that many, 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 many people really like. I am not necessarily one of those people. It's not really my cup of tea, but I can respect it.
I think because it's become it's been so embedded as a cultural icon that I agree with you. It's not like a movie I would run to go see again. I think I've seen it maybe 1.5 times, where I was like halfway through the second time, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I've already seen this once. But I agree with you, because especially that one scene, it has been ripped off so many times in so many different genres, and everyone knows where it came from. And I think that, you know, when you've created something that becomes so associated, relevant,
movie,
you know, and like, yeah, and it's become embedded in Hollywood, and that's kind of like The Matrix style scene. Like that's how everyone knows it and that's how they remember it. And it's just, I agree with you totally that it's kind of shaken up how they do that kind of a scene and the special effects and just the way the movie was done. It's been ripped on in TV and movie all over the place, so I completely agree.
I agree too, for sure. And also like Keanu Reeves. Like, can we just talk about that?
Yeah. Can we just pay homage to
can we just
Keanu?
give him a moment where we talk about him? Because first of all, he's just a beautiful human in itself, like in his own right. Like, thank you, Keanu Reeves, for being beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if you ever will, but dreams are real.
Right.
But Keanu Reeves, seriously, yep. And honestly, not only is he an amazing human, but he does a lot of his own stunts. So props to you, Keanu Reeves, again.
And he's
so beautiful.
He's just also the type of person who's been able to move and bounce around from different genres very easily.
Oh, for sure.
And just
he like totally gets into that role, like kind of like method acting. He gets like really absorbed by it, I think. But I honestly think The Matrix is kind of like a cult classic movie, or it's kind of like going into that kind of a bracket to me, at least.
I can see that.
Especially because of that iconic scene. But I like The Matrix. Like, I've only seen it a couple of times, but I definitely think it's a good movie, and I definitely, the way it was, for sure.
But the thing that he did point out is that had he taken the role, not only would Keanu Reeves not have been Neo, but Lawrence Fishburne wouldn't have been Morpheus, because they would not have had both of those lead characters be African American. So supposedly, had it been Will Smith, it would have been Val Kilmer as Morpheus. Totally different movie.
Yeah, totally pass on that one.
Yeah, I think it ended up the way that it was supposed to be.
For sure.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
100.
So going back to what I was saying at the beginning about this being a controversial choice for the bucket list for this particular episode.
Oh my God, yes.
Is the fact that this film was directed by the Wachowski brothers. Which are now the Wachowski sisters. Because both of them have since transitioned. So Lawrence Wachowski transitioned and is now Lana Wachowski. That happened in 2008. And in 2016, Andrew Wachowski became Lily Wachowski.
Yo, parts of the people.
Right? So, and it's interesting because if you watch the movie, it's still very much at those end credits, says the Wachowski brothers. However, if you look up The Matrix on IMDb and you look at directors, it says that it is written by, or is directed and written by Lily and Lana Wachowski.
Yep.
Woman power, I love it.
And it very much appears as number 20 on IndieWire's 100 Best Movies Directed by Women.
Shout out.
So, it raises the question as to how that all really fits together and whether a movie directed pre-transition should or should not be considered as directed by male or female.
You know what? I think on this one, Samara, we could be gender fluid.
Let's do it.
Because, you know what? Power to the people. Power to trans women. I think it's amazing to just be who you want to be, whether male or female. So in this case, The Matrix, Keanu Reeves, we're going to just gender fluid it up, baby.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, like really, it fits so well with the messages of The Matrix and the ability to kind of choose your own path and kind of influence the world around you.
Oh yeah, that movie's so much about transition and life choices, and are you going to go down this road? Are you going to go down that road? Like, it makes a lot of sense. The puzzle pieces are coming together, ladies.
Right?
Yes.
So, anyways, that was my bucket list movie. I agree with the ladies that it does in fact belong in this episode. That Lana and Lily Wachowski are in fact the directors of The Matrix, and that it is a example of a bucket list film by a female director.
Now, so would you just to kind of give some homage to when they usually do the bucket list, would you say that it's like a top 100, and where would you put it in the top 100?
So, interesting. I mean, I do think it is top 100 because of the impact it has had on films made since it. Where it falls in the top 100, I'm a little less certain on, but I'm certainly open to any thoughts you guys have on that.
I agree that it belongs in the top 100. I would probably say, I wouldn't put an exact number on it. I would put it like maybe in the back half of it, though. I wouldn't say it's a top 50 movie, but anywhere between 50 and 100, I would say, in terms of just because of its cinematic impact, really. I think it belongs on there, but I don't think it's like in the top 50 that I would say you must watch.
Still, it's very, very highly regarded.
It is.
But top for top 100, there's just too much. There's just too much gray area, I think, for me to be able to place it. So I'm gonna just let this lie. It could lie wherever it wants to lie on
it can choose its own path where it wants to be.
Exactly.
We don't judge.
No, none of that. All right, cool. Well, so we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to be back with the individual reviews. Looking forward to it, right, ladies? We got some good.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
As the songs of awakening rang through, the world was created. The silence was broken.
Middle-earth, with its rolling hills, broken mountains, flowing rivers, and beautiful forest, was created.
Cellar Door is a journey into the mythology, the mystery, and the beauty of Middle-earth. Sit back.
Close your eyes.
And imagine.
All right, we are back, and we are ready to talk about our individual reviews. And to get us started, it is going to be the lovely Carla, who is repping for Branden this week. So, Carla, get us started. What movie did you watch, and why did you watch it?
All right. So it might be, a little obvious of a pick, but I'm going to pick it anyway because I love Disney movies. And now there's no better time, really, than the present. While we're going through this whole, crazy COVID-19 stuff, Disney Plus decided to release Frozen 2. So
Ooh.
I was like, why not? It is directed by Jennifer Lee along with Chris Buck, but she's right in there and she counts too. So I picked Frozen 2. Also didn't pick Frozen 1 because I just feel like Frozen 2 was like next level, like Frozen 1 on steroids. And I loved every moment of it.
Super Frozen.
Everything about Frozen. Into the Unknown was great. It was so aesthetically pleasing too. Like, wow. Like, it was just beautiful to watch in itself. And I like the whole like girl power vibe. You don't need no man. I don't want no scrubs, kind of thing.
That's why it's perfect for this episode.
It really is. It is exactly. A definite girl power movie.
All women independent.
It's kind of like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but like in the snow,
So is this like I don't know if you guys are like super into Disney sequels, but is this the first one that's like kind of mainstream Disney sequel? I know they've done a lot. They're direct to video, but I don't know so many sequels that Disney's done like for their animation that have been main screen kind of thing. Like, oh.
No, I think you're definitely right in that regard.
Well, because Toy Story's Pixar.
Yeah,
right?
I guess, and
Yes, it is.
yeah, I guess you could count Toy Story under that, and that just keeps going. The sequels keep coming on that, but
I mean,
Yeah.
now that Disney owns Pixar, I mean, what's the difference?
right.
Right.
I was actually, so they did that mini thing before a Pixar movie, right? It was like a 20-minute Frozen short movie that they did a while ago. Did either of you see that?
I didn't.
Oh yes, when they're like little girls and they're like playing kind of like in the snow in their room. Like,
Yeah, and it was like the whole history of Olaf through their growing up.
oh my god,
Oh my God,
like how he came
Olaf.
to be. Oh my god, Olaf like has my heart.
I love Olaf. Oh, he is my spirit snowman. I feel like him because I came down from Michigan and everyone teased me. They were like, "You were like Olaf, thinking you're going to survive in the heat." I was like, "I can do
Oh
it."
my God.
Oh, I love Olaf. Olaf makes that movie for me. He really does.
Yeah, he just like it's just like those like breaks during the film, maybe like a break of tension almost, you
Mhm.
know? And it's just Olaf saying something silly, doing a silly face, calling out some girl named Becky. Who the hell is Becky? You know,
Yeah.
like those silly moments.
Oh my God, his recaps of the previous movie.
Oh yes.
That might be my
Yes.
favorite moment.
That was really cool. That was really cool that Disney wanted to do that. It kind of was like what like Deadpool does, you know what I mean? Like how he kind of like breaks out of character, out of scene, and like directly talks to you, kind of a thing, but in a different way, like in a Disney way. Like I'm breaking
Yeah,
out of this movie.
absolutely.
Like breaking the fourth wall, you know?
Breaking
what I
the
mean?
fourth wall.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Olaf is Deadpool.
Oh my god.
Mind blown right now.
So happy, lighthearted movie. And it was nice to watch, and thank you Disney Plus props for releasing it earlier than you should have, way earlier. But yeah, I love Frozen 2, and I think a lot of people would agree. I don't know about you ladies.
So, I mean, I very much enjoyed the movie. I actually like Frozen 1 better than I like Frozen 2. Musically,
Interesting.
Frozen 1 just stuck with me a whole lot more. Like, there are songs from Frozen 1 that I love, and Frozen 2, except for Into the Unknown, the music.
One consistent song, it would work.
Yeah.
At least to me. It had like a very consistent melody throughout the film.
It was like the music was almost thematic. Like it tied a thread through the film in a way that Frozen 1 didn't necessarily do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I mean, I really enjoyed Frozen 2, and I have to say, I love Kristen Bell.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, I love Kristen Bell so much.
She
And
can
she's
do no wrong.
She really, Anna is my favorite though. I know everyone goes for Team Elsa, but I freaking love Anna.
Anna's amazing.
She was my favorite in the first one too, because she's just the person that everybody loves. If you notice, like all the way through that, she makes friends and she's people's advocate all the way through it. And then Elsa's kind of, the ice queen, obviously. So
Man, Kristen Bell has made it, very, very far from Veronica Mars, let me say.
Which, I mean,
Just
I
say
loved
that.
Veronica Mars.
No, for sure. But like, dang, you watch a show like Veronica Mars, like, yes, it was good for the early 2000s. Maybe even good now. I don't know. I haven't gone back and seen it. But from going from that to the level she's in now, like Naomi and I, before we're talking about her in The Good Place.
Yep, absolutely.
She was amazing
Love
in that.
amazing.
I love her in that. Love
So
it.
good.
So what would you give your rating for Frozen 2? What would you rate it?
I'm not gonna go crazy, but I'm definitely gonna give it like an 8.
Okay. Samara, what would you give it?
I'd go with an 8. An 8 sounds about right.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I preferred the first one, but I think, it's a solid 8. It's a solid sequel, definitely.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, especially for an animated movie, like it's hard to do a really good sequel for it. So I'd definitely give it an 8.
Yes.
But I would give the first one probably like a 9.
Yep, that's
9.5,
exactly where I am.
love it so much.
That's
but
exactly where I am.
I need to go back and watch it because right now I don't know what it is. I'm really feeling Frozen 2.
Just, make Brandon watch both of them again. You can watch them back to back. And
he's super down. When Frozen 2 came out, we watched it like the moment it came out. He was like so giddy.
Dude, I love it when he comes on here and he talks about how, a little tear in his eye when he's watching Beauty and the Beast or something. So
yeah, that's his favorite.
So sweet. He has a soft side.
Oh my God.
Totally. Not like my guy who is freaking soulless. I mean, this is the reality here.
Okay, so my film for this episode, my individual review, is The Iron Lady from 2011, starring Meryl Streep, Jim Broadbent, Olivia Colman, and directed by Phillida Lloyd. Before I get into my thoughts on the movie itself, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about why I chose this movie. So Phillida Lloyd definitely falls into female directors. And I particularly like her because she is a director of both stage and screen. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a big old theater nerd. And she is known for putting women center stage, telling their stories, and collaborating with them. So really, I couldn't think of somebody better to represent female directors for this episode. Now, the film as a whole, I really enjoyed it. For anybody who doesn't know, it is a story about Margaret Thatcher, British Prime Minister, who is fairly legendary. But unlike most movies that you see that are about somebody's rise to power, this movie, although it does do a little bit in terms of her rise to power, like you see how she becomes who she is really taking a different approach, and it takes place in 3 days toward the end of her life. She's 86 years old. Her health and mind are starting to falter, and it's just you see the rise to power in flashbacks, but what you're really experiencing is the after power and what it's like to lose that power. And I just really thought that was a really fascinating way to go about looking at this legendary character. So again, Margaret Thatcher is played by Meryl Streep, who is always brilliant, or 99% of the time.
Like the queen of Hollywood. I'm telling you, there's no role that Meryl Streep has been in where she has not totally owned it. I mean, like...
Right.
And she was amazing in this movie, and it actually took me a second to realize that was Meryl Streep in makeup for older Margaret Thatcher.
Right.
I was like, that's Meryl? Like, it was amazing, and probably really true to how she's going to age one day. And she never does. She seems ageless.
Yeah, she doesn't age.
Never.
But that brings up a really good point. So Meryl in this film plays Margaret at sort of 3 different points. There's an adult Margaret who is working her way into power. There is adult Margaret at the pinnacle of her power, and then there's elderly Margaret at 86 years old, and like I said, starting to lose some of her grasp on reality and aging and not doing well. And really, I mean, to me, one of the amazing things, and I think one of the reasons why Meryl probably won the Oscar for leading actress for this film, is that she has 3 distinct characters, and especially the older one is not easy to play. I'm always really kind of taken aback when a really, really talented actor can play a role that does not have a lot of action, does not have a lot of movement, and there's so much in the quietness and the face, and like, to me, that's just it's kind of the pinnacle of great acting.
Well, and there's something to be said for the fact that Meryl, I mean, in any role that she takes on, and when we were talking about this before, I was saying that I thought this role was almost a combination of how she portrayed Julia Childs, and then also Miranda in The Devil Wears Prada, where she was also portraying, and those are both in the same case, they're both based off of, well, Julia Child is the real woman, but then Miranda was based off of the head of Vanity Fair, which I'm totally blanking on her name right now. But Meryl, she owns those powerful female lead roles where she takes on a person who really existed and she can portray them at different stages of their life. And she's so good, like you said, with how she just reacts with her face and the quiet. In both those other movies, she does that as well. So it's really, it's a talent of hers. It's sort of like, I would put her, I'm obsessed with Tom Hanks. So I put her on that same level where they do so much acting with their eyes and their expression and how their body is. And especially with this, and old Margaret, how she looks very frail, but you can still sense the power within her. Like her brain is still like there and wants to be the Iron Lady that she was, but it's her body basically that's failing at that point.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. And also I think what you were saying about when she portrayed Julia Childs, which like Margaret is a real life human being who people are very familiar with, and people are familiar with how she talks and how she looks and her mannerisms. And after watching this film, I went back and watched some videos of the Iron Lady herself, and really her voice and speech pattern are dead on. And I actually saw a clip where Barbara Walters is talking to Meryl Streep about how she had interviewed Margaret Thatcher many, many times, and that in watching The Iron Lady, Barbara could not tell the difference between Margaret and Meryl. That's how spot on she was. So I think that that's amazing. I think that this leading actress Oscar was well deserved. It also received an Oscar for makeup, which like Naomi was saying, I mean, the makeup in this is fascinating and really,
those special effects are really, really cool. She got an Academy Award and a Golden Globe, I believe, for Best Actress for this, right?
Yeah, I definitely know she got the Academy Award. I believe
deserved.
Golden Globe might be true too.
Well deserved.
I haven't
because
seen
she
this.
just was so amazing.
I haven't seen this, but you know what, Samara? I'm very intrigued now listening to you talk about this. I mean, I think it's really cool to see the human side of a political, very well-known figure, because you see them in a certain light, social media presence.
I will say that when I first started this movie, it was a little bit slow at first. It took me a minute because I was waiting for Meryl. That
a lot of character development.
Well, it was I watched it strictly because Meryl Streep was in it. It was an amazing movie, and it made me interested in actually learning more about Margaret Thatcher. But at first, it was Meryl that was the draw, and it was slow at first. And I was like, "Oh, I hope this movie is like this. That this is as good as it was hyped up to be." And it totally was. But it does take a minute to get into. I don't know if you say that
definitely.
Samara, but
I completely agree. You definitely have to get into it a little bit. So if somebody is starting to watch it and you're sitting there going, I'm not sure about this, give it a little while. Let Meryl start doing what Meryl does best. And I think that you won't regret spending the time on it.
I think once you get into the actual central part of the story, it moves really, really fast and it gets really interesting. But at first you're kind of like, okay, what's happening? Especially with the husband at first, where you're kind of hey, he's kind of bopping in and out. What's going on with this guy? Because at first I didn't understand it. I was like, wait, is he here? What's happening? He's just this bouncy clown type figure. And you're like, what's going on here?
Right. We're not going to say too much more about that because spoilers, but you'll know what we're talking about when you see it.
Very cool, cool, ladies.
Just before I give this my rating, the one thing that I do want to mention that really sort of struck me when I was watching this film is I've always viewed Great Britain as more conservative than the United States. And so I find it absolutely fascinating that country managed to put a woman in its highest elected office in 1979.
Yeah, wow, that's very forward thinking.
It's very progressive, and the movie is all about being progressive, especially towards a woman's role in society, and it makes a huge point of her having to overcome that. So it's not like it presents it as she had an easy ride at all.
Oh no, not at all.
It is amazing. I mean, just the woman that she was able to do that during that time. It was not a time where I mean, there was the woman's movement then, but I mean, the fact that she was able to do it, you're right, it's amazing, especially for Britain, where you kind of have that feeling like they're that they are further behind than the United States, and they're not at all. Like they were able to do this decades before we even got close to that. So
right, and we still haven't actually managed to do it.
Exactly. So
one of these days.
So what was your rating?
So I'm gonna give this a 8.5. 8.5.
Yep,
We'll go with 8.5.
I would do about an 8 out of 10. I think it was one of my favorite roles that I've seen Meryl Streep in, definitely just because I love it when she takes on and embodies those roles, because it's like you said, when you're portraying a real person, it is so important to pick up on their mannerisms and the way they talked and the way they acted in order to give it credibility to the person. So.
And she is a master class in that.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
My rating of this film is all about Meryl. If it wasn't as slow as it was to begin with, I probably easily could have given this a 9 or a 10, but it's a little rough getting into it. So we'll stick with the 8.5.
I completely agree.
All right. Well, stay committed and you will be rewarded, I assume.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, guys, you heard it first. Watch it. Just stay right on board with it. Ride that roller coaster of Meryl Streep.
Have faith in the power of Meryl Streep to bring that movie up even better than it could have been. It might not, honestly, it might have been one of those roles where if somebody else had taken it on, it wouldn't have been as well done, and the movie might not have gone as far.
Right, like we were talking about with The Matrix. If it had been Will Smith instead of Keanu Reeves.
Can you imagine? All right, so I am going to wrap up this section with my individual review, which was actually Bridget Jones' Diary, directed by Sharon McGuire. So we're staying in the British theme because, we're the ladies and we all love the British men.
Oh, I'm loving it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes. So this movie came out in 2001, and it was based on the book by Helen Fielding. And basically, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, Bridget Jones is a woman who's not very self-assured, and she works in publishing, I believe, to start with. And it's all about how she starts a diary because she wants to improve her life and really just kind of take control of it. And she does it by beginning a diary at the start of a new year after a kind of fiasco at her mother's house. So that was the catalyst for her doing it. And it chronicles a year in her life. And the two other actors in it, Colin Firth, and I am blanking on his name right now.
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, yes.
How can we forget Hugh Grant?
Baby blue eyes, right?
I said Hugh because all of a sudden I started saying Hugh Grant, and then in my mouth was like Hugh Jackman, and I'm like, I know, right? I'm like, dang, I know his name. Oh my gosh! So the reason I picked this movie, not only because it's directed by a woman, which I think it's one of those movies that if it had been directed by a man, it might not have been as successful, and that sounds sexist, but since it's so female-centric on how women think about themselves and how women behave, and those little elements, like when she goes to the gym and she like works out for one day to extreme, and doesn't see results, things like that. I think there are things that only a female director would have been able to really embrace and bring alive in the same way. Or like when she's laying on the couch surrounded by empty ice cream watching sappy 80s movies, like that's a woman's thing. Like a man might not have known how to do that.
It's a great portrayal of a real human person. It's not like it's too exaggerated in that sense.
Yeah, I feel like if it had been a man directing it, like it would have seemed like stereotypes of a woman versus being really kind of, this movie gets me.
I absolutely adore this movie because I totally relate to everything that she goes through, especially when she puts a blanket over her head so he can't see her wobbly bits. I mean, come on. That is a woman's move, totally. So
totally.
I love this movie. I thought it was one of Renee Zellweger's better roles. Just because I think she really, sort of like we just said with Meryl Streep, although not anywhere on the same level, but taking on a character and really taking it to its limit and just really wanting to portray and do justice to it. She did a really good job of portraying what the tone of the book was really a woman who felt inadequate and really wanted to improve her life. And she was hitting sort of that mid-30s range where I think a lot of people have that moment where they're like, damn, I'm middle-aged. Because seriously, I just hit 35 and I'm like, shit, I'm going to be 70 in 35 years. This sucks. Like,
yeah, it's like your regular life crisis.
It is. Like, you're like, wait, no, middle-aged is like 40 or 50. People are like, only if you live to be 100. I mean, no, you've hit middle-aged. And
right.
I think that's what the story does so well. And I love freaking Colin Firth so much in it. Especially the end. Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's that knight in shining armor with that British accent that I love. Don't give me a shaking head, Lewis. He's over there like mouthing and making fun of me.
You know, it's pretty forward thinking as well, you know, in the sense of here's this, you know, real woman and look at these two men just like completely head over heels for her. And it's kind of just like, yeah, you go, girl. Like, you don't have to look like a model, you know, to be loved, kind of a thing. Like, it's more about like being okay to have flaws.
And I love the fact that they show her like messing up during it, like the blue soup incident, or the fact that she wears normal, regular, dumpy clothing, like and has those moments where she breaks down and ends like cutting mold off of cheese. Not that I've done that, but I can see how a woman would, because she didn't go out shopping for 3 weeks. I mean, like, I like the fact that it shows a very flawed character and that the men still love her and find lovable traits in her. And I think they actually love her because she kind of goes against the grain of these beautiful other women that they show in the movie who you hate.
Yeah.
I hate all the other women in this movie with the exception of her mom. Every other woman in this movie, I'm like, what?
I think the movie also does a really great job of portraying the importance of strong friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Because really her friends in that movie carry her through some of the harder times. And I think that's important to remember, that it's not all about the men and the men liking her, but she herself has this life outside of them and the friends that make that life fulfilling.
And I like the fact that the format of it, that it's like her narrating as her diary, you know what I mean? Like what she was writing. And also those moments where it's like, it shows what was going to be written in the diary as she's narrating it. Cause I think that's hilarious.
I love narration in movies. I love it a lot. I don't know why. It like really, I don't know. It makes me just more committed to a show or a movie or anything. I really enjoy it.
Absolutely. And I also, but I also love the sequel.
Like,
I liked
Has anyone seen Jane the Virgin?
Yes.
Oh my God. I love Jane the Virgin. And like, that's pretty much like narrated. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, no.
I think there are a lot of similarities between Jane the Virgin and Bridget Jones' Diary.
There really are.
Yeah.
But yep, so that was my individual review for this because I love this movie. It is one of my favorite movies, so I give it a 9 out of 10. Just because I think it holds up even now. I think, I think that women of any age can really appreciate it. If you're young, you know what's coming. If you're at that age,
I think
you're like,
every
girl,
every girl that's, like coming to that point in her life should watch this movie. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
when you're growing up and you're going through that like awkward stage, maybe you're like a preteen or like a teenager, you go through those motions too. I think young girls should watch this movie because girls at a very young age, they start thinking about their own self-image, and that's when a lot of insecurities play in. And with everything social media tells you about how you should look, how you should dress, what you should be doing, what you should be eating, how you should be breathing, I think Bridget Jones' Diary is just a nice way to kind of break the ice and say it's okay to be yourself. So I think I would definitely think it's a coming of age film for when it came out and even now.
And it holds up, right? Like you said, it's like even now it's still relevant. It's not like technology or social media or anything like that has changed it. I think the message is still really, really powerful for girls. And like you said, even like if you're a preteen, just to know what to expect, especially in relationships, because I think it's so true that she goes after the pretty boy and she's all excited and the disappointment that comes from that. So, I mean, I freaking love this movie, even though Hugh Grant is an asshole in it. I love him so much.
So now that we're telling every girl and woman that they should go see this film if they haven't already seen it, or revisit it if they haven't seen it in a while, where is it streaming?
This one is streaming. It's Prime, right? I'm looking over at Lewis. Yeah, it's Amazon Prime right now.
Okay. So everybody, ladies, if you have not seen Bridget Jones' Diary, or if you need a refresher, go check it out on Amazon Prime.
And get your tub of ice cream to eat while you're watching it.
Have you guys seen
my recommendation?
Have you guys seen Edge of Reason or Jones Baby? Because
I saw Edge of Reason. I didn't see Bridget Jones' Baby because I didn't want to taint my love of the first two.
Okay.
It didn't look very good. I don't know.
I honestly forgot that there was a third one. I don't think I saw it.
I saw.
I did see Edge of Reason,
but I loved Edge of Reason. I love.
Yeah. So, do you guys think that Edge of Reason is definitely something that you should watch?
I think you should. If you like the first one, I think the second one is a credible sequel to it. I don't think it's one of those sequels where you're like, eh. I mean, the movie could have stood on its own and never had a sequel. I think it totally could have, but the sequel's a nice one. I like it, and I like the fact that it continues the story and does justice to the fact that, you know, the happy ending, there's a story after the happy ending. So I like it a lot.
All right. Cool. Maybe I'll check that out.
All right. Samara, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was Manbitesmedia, the ladies behind the gentlemen of Manbitesmedia. And
power.
They're better halves.
The better halves. The better halves. We have been thrilled to take over this episode, and I don't know, comment, like, whatever. Maybe they'll let us do it again, or we won't ask and we'll do it again anyways.
Take over, power.
Take over. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you another time.
Thanks so much, everybody, and thank you, ladies.
Thank you, guys.